Hi everyone, I'm Gautam aka the Seeker of Wisdom. I'm a manifestation coach, and in this video, we're going to be talking about a couple of things today. Now, before I do so, I like to remind you guys I am available for coaching. So I offer one-on-ones, courses, and masterclasses. I also have a free Facebook group and a paid Facebook group. And last but not least, I also have a mailing list. If you guys need any information on any of those things, feel free to email me or DM me via Instagram for more information, and I'll be happy to guide you guys on those. So I have two success stories to share with you guys today, and I also wanted to explore the idea of why everyone is pushed out and how you can use that to your advantage in terms of SP. So without further ado, guys, let's dive in. So with my first success story, this client has been listening to a custom-made affirmation tape from me since about the beginning of March, let's just say. And they have been listening to this tape morning, noon, and night consistently as much as they can. So they don't just listen to this affirmation tape like during bedtime, but they also have been listening to it consistently throughout the day as well, because the way the person's work schedule is they can't really sometimes listen to it in like nighttime because they really need the proper sleep and whatnot because of the nature of their work. So they have been listening to this tape in the mornings and sometimes at night too, but the night times isn't as regular. So even when they are like watching a YouTube video, I always tell this to my clients, even when you're watching like another YouTube video or something, you can always put your affirmation tape like in very low volume and listen to it simultaneously as well. It's still being cemented into your subconscious mind. So that's what this person did. And what happened in a span of months is that their SP started to give them warm behavior. They really started coming in hot, and they were praising them, they were really appreciating them. And these people have really kind of warmed up to each other. And mind you, they weren't really that close prior to listening to the tape or whatsoever. But as soon as they start listening to the tape, what ended up happening was they really became very close. And the SP was more receptive towards the suggestions that my client gave. If they wanted to do something and whatnot, the SP was really down to it. And that may not have been the case in the past before, because they weren't really that close firstly. But this person also didn't seem like the person who would say yes or who would be down for such things. Again, that has a lot to do with assumptions, but I think just seeing these effects was like really great. A lot of people who kind of exited away from this person's life kind of came in. People who were friends at one point also started coming in as well, not in like a romantic way or something, but just to kind of like rekindle their relationship. And because this person didn't really have the best relationship with their friends and they kind of broke it off a long time ago, so a lot of those people really came in unexpectedly. We're talking a span of like 6-7 years. These people like just came in as well, and I'm gonna be also sharing some of those affirmations as well really quick. But when you do something consistently, now for me, affirmation tapes are what I would consider to be passive activities, if you will, right? They aren't really something that you are doing actively. You're not putting in your conscious effort. It's more passive because you're not thinking, you're not exerting a lot of mental effort to do these things. You're just listening to a tape. But despite how passive it is still effective. Why? Because the subconscious mind is constantly working behind the scenes. It's constantly absorbing information and it's regurgitating it into the 3D. So I just want you guys to kind of like note that, because that's how powerful affirmation tapes can be. It's really powerful in the sense that as long as you're doing it consistently, it just pushes everything out into the 3D as well. You don't really have to do anything. This really shows the power of the subconscious mind, and this also emphasizes why you should really watch your mental diet and as well as like the content that you're consuming, because everything can get pushed out even if you're not consciously doing it. Remember, we are after all manifesting 24/7. It's not something that we can unlearn or that we can't just not do. This is something that we are constantly doing 24/7. Now, what we say when we talk about manifesting a law of assumption and things like that is that we are talking about the art of conscious manifestation, and it's to use this power that already exists to direct it to get what we want. Essentially, that's what we are doing. And with affirmation tapes, it's redirecting our focus towards the favorable. So that's what's being pushed out, albeit in a very passive way. So this is what the person primarily did, is like they just started listening to the tape regularly, wherever they went, especially the commute times, especially break times in their offices and whatnot. I really encourage them to listen to it as many times as they can, as much as they can, because the affirmation tape is an 8-hour tape. So what I normally ask is for them to listen to it as much as possible. So I always tell my clients to keep a copy in their desktop as well as their phone, maybe in their Google Drive or something like that, so that when they they are listening to the tape, they can just like listen to it whenever they can. It's not something that they can only listen to when their phone is available, or they can only listen to it when their desktop is available. When you have the copy of the files everywhere, it's easier for you to just access it. Even just keeping it in your email, for example, is I would say is useful, or even in your Google Drive, if you use Gmail, because what ends up happening is that even if you're traveling overseas and whatnot, you can still like listen to it whenever you can. So I really told this client to like listen, and this was put in their due diligence as well. So they really listen to this tape throughout, and they start getting so much progress, not just with this, but in terms of money as well. Their revenue started going up, and their social life is like way better. And this person is more receptive towards newer things that may not have been the case a couple months ago. So it's almost taking a chisel to a hard rock and like slowly kind of like hammering on it and like grinding all the unfavorable bits away to kind of reveal the diamond that is within. That's the analogy I use with like affirmation tape. Sometimes it's it's like taking because your beliefs have like kind of formed this like rough layer of like hardened shell around the diamond, and with like affirmation tape, you're slowly kind of hammering away all the unfavorable thoughts to reveal the diamond that is within your true nature, if you will. If you think about it, this is something that we are experiencing constantly as well. I always use this example with my clients where, for example, if you are listening to a YouTube advertisement, our first instinct is to press skip as quickly as we can. But even though it's only playing for like 5 seconds, what you would realize is that if it's being played consistently, you would start remembering the contents of the advertisement even without you taking the conscious effort to memorize it. So what's happening there? It's the repetition, even in like short doses, consistently is super effective. So imagine if you're doing your affirmation tape, you're listening to your affirmation tape consistently every single day for extended periods of time. Obviously, that's going to have an effect on you. And even if you're not remembering your affirmations exactly word for word in the beginning, as you're listening to it for a couple months or so, you will start remembering all those things. And when you're hearing it in your voice, it's sometimes more receptive to your mind. But sometimes with others, they like listening to it in others' voice, like people who they hold in a high regard, or people who they find assurance in. So with a lot of my clients, they really want to hear it from me, because for them it's like, okay, it's reassuring when we hear it from you. But it's not always the case, but I'm just like putting it out there that either way is fine. Your subconscious mind understands it either way. And another important point that I want to bring when it comes to this is that keep in mind, your subconscious mind does not have any eyes. Whatever you feed it is its reality, in terms of thoughts and in terms of like whatever that you think about others or just the world and whatnot. That's what your subconscious mind sees and perceives as real, because your subconscious mind does not have any eyes. So if I were you, I would use that to my advantage by only trying to feed it favorable content as much as possible. We don't even want to entertain anything unfavorable, because remember, that is what your subconscious is going to perceive, and it's all going to be pushed out into your 3D again and again and again. And it's something that you don't want to see. You don't want to feed that to your subconscious mind. The way you perceive the world is the way your subconscious is going to perceive the world as well, and it's going to, more importantly, push everything out. So I would say definitely change your outlook on everything, including like your SP, including your workplace and whatnot, because the subconscious does not have any eyes. It believes what you want it to believe. So change your perspectives there. And that's something that this person did as well. Like, as much as they listened to the affirmation tape consistently, which they did, another thing that I asked them to do was also change their assumptions as well about the things that they really want to manifest. Like, if you want to manifest your SP, don't think that they are hanging out with a potential 3P, or don't think that they are a complete douchebag and things like that. You are manifesting this person for a reason. So definitely sit down, just think favorably about, don't bring in any unfavorable thoughts, and don't like fill up your mind with those things, because there's no point in listening to a tape if your mental diet, when you're not listening to the tape, is unfavorable. It kind of cancels each other out, if that makes sense. So what I always encourage people to do is take more of a cohesive approach, where it's like your mental diet must be favorable as much as you're doing techniques, not just tapes, but even with like any other techniques. Like, your mental diet has to be favorable in addition to doing the techniques as well, because otherwise, these two things effectively cancel each other out. So that's what this person kind of worked on as well, and the affirmations really helped. And affirmations that was in the tapes, sometimes they will just say it out loud as well, because they are so used to it at this point. So if any unfavorable thought pops up, and what they have been seeing is like results after results, in the sense that they are getting more revenue in their business. They are, definitely receiving, a lot of warm behavior, with their SP. They're not fully there yet, but this was a huge milestone, especially in terms of their other aspects of their lives and whatnot. This person is not just like working on SP per se, but they are like working on their life as a whole. And this person is like completely becoming unrecognizable to the people around them, because it's almost like what Neville would say, they are changing states to the point where what they used to do at one point, they are no longer doing it anymore. And it's really all because of what they have been putting into their mind that is causing them to kind of shift into a brand new state that feels completely unrecognizable to everyone around them. So this is the power of it, guys. I really wanted to talk about this story because I wanted to show you that when you do something consistently over a period of time, you can change your state, and your 3D will also change as well. And all you really have to do is just change your thoughts and persist in that. To persist in that simply means to not entertain any unfavorable thoughts and to only focus on the favorable as much as possible. And if you can do that, everything will be favorable for you guys. So that was the first success story, and I'm really happy. So if you guys need any information on the affirmation tape services that I offer, feel free to email me or DM me for more information via Instagram, and I'll be more than happy to share with you guys. But let's go on to the next success story. Oh, and really quick, before I move on to the next story, I completely forgot about this. I apologize. I wanted to talk about the affirmations that this person used that I feel like might be useful for you guys. So this person used like affirmations like, I'm confident, radiant, and fulfilled. I'm loved, admired, and respected by the world. Everything's always favorable for me. My SP loves me unconditionally. My SP and I are perfect for each other. We live happily ever after, and things like that. So I can't go into detail with the other affirmations because it's a bit private for this person. I just want to respect that. But these were some of the more generic ones that they used that was really showing up when they say that they were loved and admired and respected by the world. Trust me when I say everyone came back into this person's life. A lot of people who were in pretty much like no contact kind of situations, they really came back, and some even like gave this person apologies, and this person got a lot of closure for what they wanted. So I just wanted to point that out really quick. And for my next success story, you guys may have seen it on my Instagram briefly if you guys are there. But for context, this person worked with me in DM coaching last year, around September, I want to say. She did end up manifesting her SP after that. So I was really happy to hear that actually. She basically reached out to me saying that, hey, can I arrange a call with you? And at this point, I was just shifting all my things away from my room to prepare it for painting. So this was very recent. I was like, okay, you know what, let's just sit down and have a call really quick. And we did. So she gave me a context like, okay, hey, I did manifest that person that we used to talk about, but at this point, like, we are having a bit of a trouble and we actually broke up, and which is why I'm calling you. And I asked, okay, like, what happened? Just tell me everything, and then we can kind of like take it from there. So she did tell me like all the background kind of information that I needed. And so essentially they had just a bit of misunderstanding, and the SP said like, we have to break off because I can't handle this anymore kind of situations, right? Like very classic kind of situation where sometimes SP will say things like, okay, you know what, I can't handle this anymore, and they just want to kind of bail out. Normally that happens due to a fear or a sense of insecurity that the other person may have. And that was pretty much the case here as well. This person had a bit of fears and like, a bit of insecurity here and there. So that was kind of like the context here as well. So this is why I always tell people, when your SP does come back, continue the work that you're putting in, like not just in terms of like the SP aspect of it, but also the self-concept aspect of it as well, because you want to be confident, you want to really be anchored in the idea that, okay, even if I don't have this person, I'm going to be great anyway kind of perspective. Not that you don't want to have your SP or anything, but you kind of have to come at it from that perspective, because what it does is that it boosts your confidence. So my point is that work on your self-concept as much as you work on manifesting an SP and whatnot. Like, and even after they come in, let's say it's only been maybe a week or two that they have established a contact with you, or they have established a relationship with you, continue the work still, because it's still still relatively volatile. A lot of people, what they end up doing is that once they get what they want, they immediately drop everything that got them to that point, which I think is absolutely disastrous in many cases, because when they drop everything that they want, mind you, these people aren't maintaining their favorable mental diet. What they do when they do drop all the techniques and their routines is that they get sucked back into the old story, the old state. And what ends up happening is that the unfavorable cycle sort of repeats itself, which is really not the ideal situation here. For this person, when they weren't doing anything like routine wise per se, I think what ended up happening was the insecurities and the fears kind of kicked in, which is why I always tell people, if you're doing something, continue it for a while. Now granted, for this person it was slightly different. It has been a few months and maybe certain things like just kind of popped up, but this is why, if your foundation is solid, the foundation being your self-concept, and you have anchored in the idea that who else would they go to besides me, and if you have that knowing, for example, that they are lucky to have me, they want the same things as me, they love and adore me, because why wouldn't they? I mean, look at me, look at the person that I am. And if you're so anchored in that type of an attitude, nothing that your SP does will invoke a sense of insecurity and fear within you. And that's why I always tell people, like, when you're working on SP, work on your self-concept too. But it's one of those things, like, it's funny in the community, one thing that I have seen is that it's always like one or the other, right? They always tell you to either work on self-concept or your SP, like, and they will say that, okay, one is more than enough to manifest the SP, which you can manifest your SP with either one or the other. You can manifest by working on your self-concept, or you can manifest by working on the assumptions about SP that you have and whatnot. But in terms of like longevity, I would say both is important, especially self-concept. Self-concept is really important when it comes to the longevity of the relationship. I always tell my clients, you can manifest your SP just by focusing on them, just by affirming for them and whatnot. But what really sustains the relationship in the long run, if you really ask me, is the self-concept. Because that way, the so-called insecurity and the doubts and the fears will not even be a legitimate concern. Because remember, we are not just trying to manifest our SP here, because everybody can do that at this point. I'm sure that many of you in the community would have even seen, like, you know, even with your own personal stories as well, like a lot of hot behavior from your SP, like just after affirming for a week or two, or like after persisting in the new story for a while. Like that's pretty easy to do at this point, and I think like most people have kind of gotten that mastered pretty much. But what we are trying to aim for is the longevity of the relationship. Like, we are aiming for the happily ever after, and that's where the self-concept really kicks in, if you ask me. Because when it's so automatic for you guys to believe that SP always treats you like royalty, that you are an amazing person who wouldn't want to be with you and things like that, when you are coming at it from that perspective, SP has no choice but to reflect that, and you are going to get whatever that you want consistently throughout your relationship. So just keep in mind, because I feel like if this person had that going on, like maybe this could have been avoided, but everything is a lesson, right? What ended up happening was, okay, when we spoke, she said there was a trip that they planned like 2 weeks from our call, and she is not sure that they're going to go anymore, and she already has paid half of the money for it and whatnot. So in this case, I said, listen, you guys are going. You guys are still in a relationship. This has changed nothing. And this person is working towards marriage, for context. So I said, listen, you still see him as your loving, caring husband. If marriage is what you're aiming for, you still see him as that. Go straight to the end. Nothing has changed. And anchor yourself in that. Like, he has not broken up with you because he loves you. He really cares for you. And you are still going for that trip 2 weeks from now. Everything is favorable for you. And that was kind of like the mindset that we went in with, is like, okay, we're not going to take no for an answer. And we're going to anchor ourselves in the idea that he loves you. He cares for you. Breakup is not even on the table at any point. This is done. The breach of incidents is unfolding towards marriage. That's it. End of discussion. So that's the way I kind of came at it from, and I really told her to anchor herself in that. So she says, and I quote, I tried to act like how I would normally act when I was with him, i.e. touching his arm because I couldn't hug him yet he wasn't ready, and talking to him, teasing him normally. However, I decided to give it a shot and hugged him, and even though he said he liked it, he wasn't ready to hug me back, and that's okay for me too. I decided to ask him if I was still his girlfriend. He asked me back, what do you think? And I said, yes, I am still your girlfriend. And he said, let's talk about this when I got back from work. So she says, last night when he came back from work, he told me that he would do better for our relationship, but he also wanted me to not get mad over small stuff every day because it's tiring for his mental health. And I said, okay, and that's it. And literally within 24 hours after I hung up the phone with you, I went back to our apartment, started talking to him normally, and he talked back, and from that I knew that I had to keep pushing. Deep down I also know that he loves me so much and he didn't want to break up and we would get back together. So again, like for context, it was pretty, because mind you, she just manifested this within like 2 days, and some of you might say like, okay, it seems like there was a bit of like 3D action she did, but for some of us we can't do things in the 3D, so what do you have to say for that? And my point is that in this context, these people were living together in the same apartment, so everything that she did was relevant in her context, in the sense that when she was living together with him, she just acted with him normally. She didn't try to look at him like, oh no, what is he going to do, what will he say next, how can I convince him? She didn't come at it from that perspective. Like she said, she was just like, I'm your girlfriend and that's it, right? Like, you are my boyfriend and yeah, we are still in a relationship, nothing has changed. And when she came at it from that perspective, like things kind of immediately went back to how it was, prior to that, and like I would say even better, because even all the silly kind of like misunderstandings that they had kind of just like washed away. And I even told her that as well. See it as this only serves you to strengthen the relationship, if you will. And that's the kind of like perspective I wanted her to have as well. And that's really important, because when you see things as serving you, everything kind of works in your favor. When you see that everything is always favorable for you, even the so-called seemingly unfavorable events, it takes on that meaning and it always gives you a favorable outcome, because you are the operant power. That's how powerful you are. That is why I always tell people like to come at it from this perspective, because it really, really helps you guys a lot. And so lastly, I just wanted to tie it all up together by talking about everyone is you pushed out, particularly in the SP context of things, because in both of these success stories that I spoke of, I told both of these people, like, remember, they are you pushed out. So if I were you, I would just change my perception of them and really persist in that more than anything else, and really kind of like put in the idea, and I recently spoke about this on my Instagram post as well, is that your SP wants the same things as you. And in these two cases, in some of the affirmations in my client's affirmation tape, as well as with the other success story as well, I just told her that outright, he wants the same thing as you. Just assume that right from the start. And what this does is that it really emphasizes that, okay, my interests and my SP's interests aren't like separate, because a lot of people tend to treat their SP as some sort of like a separate entity that has their own free will and they do things on their own and whatnot. But we in the law of assumption community know otherwise. We know better. We know that everyone is as pushed out and that nobody has free will except ourselves. So if I were you, I would use that to your advantage. Always remind yourself of those things. And if they say something unfavorable, don't accept that. Say that, no, you are my so-and-so. You are my loving, caring partner, because you are me pushed out. You want the same things as me. What do I want? I want union. And what do you want? Union as well. Why? Because you are a reflection of me and you want the same things as me, because I had said so. And when you come at it from that perspective, you would stop perceiving the 3D as so-called the final, and you wouldn't take the 3D too seriously. And that's what it all boils down to, is stop taking the 3D too seriously and focus more on your inner world. And when you do that, because everyone is you pushed out, everything has to be reflected in your favor as well. And that's what I would always encourage you guys to do, is don't take no for an answer. Keep persisting in this and always come at it from the perspective that everyone wants the same things as you do. Not just SP. If you really think about it, you can use it with like other people as well, like your employers, your colleagues, your friends. Everybody wants the same things as you. Everyone has your best interests at heart. And just put these kind of thoughts into your mind again and again and again, be it through the form of a tape or be it in the form of a letter, or just like you just repeating your affirmations out loud, or just through visualizing. Whatever you do, that's another thing I wanted to add, is like whatever you do, just be consistent with it regularly. And don't just focus on intensity. Don't just do it one day and then go silent the next few days, but like do it regularly. And what this does is that it helps you to stay on top of your mental diet on a daily basis. And when you are doing it daily, that's what's really important, if you ask me, because you're building up momentum. So that's really going to help you guys. So with that said, guys, we have come to the end of this video. If this video resonated with you, be sure to drop a like and a comment down below. Turn on your bell notification so that you guys will know when I upload a new video every single week. We are still doing that 1 hour free coaching call giveaway. All you have to do is subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram, and you guys are automatically entered into the giveaway. I will be announcing a winner when we reach 1,111 subscribers. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and happy manifesting. Peace.